At this point, I would like to introduce John Hawkins. John started blogging back in 2001, and in 2005, he went full-time as a blogger. Today, John runs the Right Wing News, Linkiest, and Viral Footage. Please give a warm welcome to John Hawkins.
I appreciate the kind introduction. My name is John Hawkins. I run rightwingnews.com. I also write columns for Town Hall, and I'm honored to have been given just a few minutes to talk to you today. Now, thank you. Just as a point of comparison, I have been to some Occupy Wall Street rallies. I was in Denver when the police ran 300 yowling dirt hippies out of the park. I've also taken a stroll through Occupy DC, and I can tell you there are a few differences. For one thing, I don't see anybody here with a sign demanding that the government or some rich guy give them a handout. I also don't see any rats, and I actually did, honest to goodness, see a rat at Occupy DC. And most importantly, I don't see any filthy tents that smell like a hobo died in them a week ago. So if you're wondering how you stack up to the Occupy crowd, well, there is no comparison. Now, I am here to talk to you briefly about accountability, the sort of accountability that the Tea Party enforced in 2010. We had, the Republican Party, the best year in half a century in 2010. Mike? That was not because the Republican Party is so wonderful, I can promise you that. It is not because some strategist came up with a great idea. It's not because we had this wonderful crop of candidates. It's because the Tea Party, all across the country, got sick and tired of what was going on and decided to do something about it. Unfortunately, Barack Obama is still in the White House. So we still have a lot of work to do. And I don't think most Americans realize how close this country is to going over the side of a cliff. Congressman Mike Pence, who's one of the good guys in the House, told me that he thought this country would be bankrupt and would default on its debt within a decade. Senator Tom Coburn was not as optimistic. He thought it might only be 5 years. I interviewed Herman Cain just last week. He told me that if Barack Obama's 10-year budget was enacted, that he thought the country would be bankrupt and would default on its debt by the time it was done. That's where we're at as a country right now, folks. And I genuinely wish I could tell you that all we have to do is get Barack Obama out of the White House in November, and all of our problems would be over. Unfortunately, it's not true. We know better, don't we? If all the Republicans in Congress were conservative and they put their country first, we wouldn't have to worry about a thing. If they were men like Jim DeMint, we would be in good shape. Unfortunately, the type of Republicans we have in Congress, most of them are arrogant, they're complacent, and they lack the courage of their convictions. In other words, we have a bunch of Lindsey Grahams up there. The only reason most of these guys do the right thing is because they are scared of you. They're scared that you're going to show up and vote them out of office. They're scared that you're going to primary them and cost them their cushy jobs. So you are holding these guys accountable. And folks, all throughout history, ever since this country has been started, there have always been groups of Americans who've been called upon to do a little bit extra to take care of their country. Think about the soldiers who fought with George Washington in the Revolutionary War. The Texans who went to the Alamo, the soldiers who went overseas in World War I and World War II and saved not just this country, but the world. Their legacy and their burden is now on you and the other Tea Partiers across the country. If you don't get it done, folks, it is not going to get done. In 100 years, they are going to talk about the time we're living in now. The historians are going to write about it. And they're going to say one of two things. Either they're going to say this is when the Tea Party rose up and enforced accountability on the politicians in D.C. and saved this country, or they're going to say this was the last time we were a superpower. This was the last time that this was a good place to call home. After everything our country has done for us, folks, we owe it to them. We owe it to our country to make sure that when those historians are writing 100 years from now, they talk about what we did to save our country. We've got to make sure that they don't write, we were the first generation to let our country down when it mattered the most. Your country is counting on you. Do the right thing. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, John.